Coach, hey, thanks for joining me today on this simple coach-to-coach interview, a season in review, kind of, sort of, but you're also a rookie to the channel, so I do want to welcome you, and just so you know, you have the honor of being the second NJAC coach, assistant coach that I've had a chance to speak with, which is wonderful. So, anyhow, thank you for joining today.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
First of all, Happy New Year. Hope you had a wonderful holiday, all that kind of stuff. But why don't we begin with, can you just tell me about how your soccer journey went, how you ended up at Rowan, right? And formerly, for those of us who know, formerly Glassboro State.
Yeah, formerly Glassboro State. Yeah, so I played 2 years up at Rutgers, New Brunswick. I had a scholarship up there. Then I transferred into Rutgers Camden in 2013, where we went, I think like 25, 1-1, something like that. But we lost to Messiah in double overtime at the national championship. And then I coached at Rutgers Camden for I think 4 years, from 16 to 19. Then I coached D1 JUCO at Harcum College. We went to the D1 JUCO Final Four and lost to Salt Lake, who won it all. And then I was actually at Jeff Cup coaching a youth team and ran into Scott Baker from Rowan. And I live like 5 minutes away, so he asked me if I wanted to join on, and I decided to join. And then I've been there the last 4 years. So we've been to the NJAC final all 4 years, and we won 2 out of the last 4. And they were the first 2 since I think 2003. So we kind of been turning the program around and getting it back to where it was back when it was Glassboro State, and they won national championships.
National championship, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So they won, I think, in 1980 and 92, I believe.
2, I think, yeah.
1 or 2, but so actually Scott Baker was on one of the teams. He was on the team in the 90 that won it.
Yeah. So I played with a guy who was on the 92 team, Scott McManus. He actually went to school with me in Ohio for a year and then transferred to Glassboro at the time.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, hey, can you just did you say you went to Rutgers, New Brunswick? So that's Division I. So that's the regular. I don't want to say regular Rutgers because Rutgers has Camden, Newark.
And
can I ask you
the D1 one? So it was the Big East back then, but they're in the Big Ten now.
Yeah. Can I ask you, like, why did you leave? Was there a particular reason? You don't have to if you'd rather not. That's fine as well. I'm just more curious.
No, yeah. I mean, so I was part of Dan Donegan's first recruiting class.
Yeah. I know Dan. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went in with an ACL injury. I made the 21-man travel squad though during that season. For we went to the Sweet 16. We lost to UCLA. And it's just a school where like you're in a position where you're really good and the player in front of you is just better. So the player in my position, he transferred out the season, I believe the season after I transferred out, but he went to Maryland and he was their captain during their spring game and he transferred in for the spring. So he was just an incredible player. He plays in I guess second division in the Netherlands right now. So so I just transferred out. I just wanted to play. So and then when I went D3, I honestly I didn't realize how high the level was, especially at the top of Division 3. It's I thought I'd be like the only big D1 player there, and it's just filled with talent. So
that's interesting. I just find that whole thing interesting. I do think, especially at the high end levels, the high levels. Let's just say the top 20 for the sake of rounding, but it's top 50, top 100. I do think the quality is a lot higher than what people give it credit to, and everyone to a T that I know of who has gone from D1 to D3 is surprised by that.
it's a lot.
Ahead.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's
Can,
a good level.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's like the things you experience that are a little different. Like the D1, it's like you're going up against 6'4", 6'5" center backs across the
Yeah.
board every single game.
Yeah.
They're talented, and D3 you could get away with some smart. It's the same thing with like the 9 position. You don't have many
Yeah.
D1 forwards that aren't 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so it's definitely an interesting mix.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I totally see that. Yeah, I got some weird thing popping up here. Is there anything is there a pop-up coming up that says anything on your end? Can you just just make a sound real quick? Something.
yeah, what's up? Can you hear me?
Okay, all right. So I think we're okay.
Okay.
I don't know. I get these weird messages on here. Um,
That's,
all right, we're totally going down a rabbit hole, and we'll come back to Rowan. Don't don't we won't miss that on that. But
yeah,
now
no.
you got me totally thinking on. Can you do you see oh, my voice? Are you guys, especially at Rowan? I mean, you have for anyone who doesn't know, Rowan is sort of grown leaps and bounds since the Glassboro State days, in terms of schools and sort of what you offer and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
are you seeing a lot of movement to places like Rowan from kids who previously may have been like, I don't want, not in a bad way, like a bubble player on a D1 program, especially now with the smaller rosters and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really say too much, but we have a few D1 transfers coming in now. But
Mm-hmm.
we've been, I mean, the players that we go after are players that should be D1 players. So like our recruiting process is real late. Like we
Yeah.
didn't start. I went to the MLS Next Fest to recruit, but we don't really start recruiting seniors in high school until like
Mm-hmm.
around now because we want kids who think they're going to get a high D1 look and then something falls through.
Yeah.
Um, so we are getting that. We're also getting a kid. So our school's now. It wasn't this way when I was coming through. So I went to
Yeah.
Rutgers Camden, but um, Rowan. We didn't have Rowan Boulevard, which is it's got like 3 or 4 nice restaurants. It's got all
Yeah. Yeah.
places.
Yeah. Brand
So
new, right? Like, yeah.
yeah, it's brand new. So they have that. There's like 23,000 kids. They're opening a vet school. So they're gonna be
Mm-hmm.
one of like 12 schools in the country with a vet school.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good spot for kids that like if you want to go to Rutgers, New Brunswick, but you might be off the level there, or you might be a bench guy there. Like
Yeah.
it's an entertaining spot. You could get the
Yeah.
same kind of an atmosphere.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's pretty cool. Like our conference final, we had like 2,000 people there.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a cool spot. So we are getting a lot of those kind of kids, or kids that they just don't want to be at a smaller school and going 500 and being
Yeah.
done in October.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's a cool
It's
mix. It's
interesting.
interesting for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just think this is all gonna flesh itself out over the next couple of years, right? I mean, everyone about the transfer portal and all that stuff. I do think, anecdotally, and this is just me, I think it's dawning on a lot of kids. Like, maybe the most important thing is actually being able to play and not, or having the opportunity to play and not necessarily making a roster, which are two very big things. Because I would not want to be number 28 on a on any Division 1 roster if I can be number 15 on a Division 3 roster. Not to say that like maybe they're better, but right, like it puts you in at least a lot closer to the field. And I
Yeah,
think,
definitely.
yeah,
I think a lot of people are experiencing more the side of there's more people that went to college now and are done and
mm,
are coaching youth that
yeah,
went somewhere where they didn't play. So now they're kind of trying to guide people that way too.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But it
Uh,
is a tough mix, especially it seems like the foreign. At least when I was like our JUCO team, we were
mm,
all foreign guys. They were
yeah,
high level. Like we had a guy go to Akron,
yeah.
stuff like that. But they're kind of taking over the D1 game. I mean, you see
Yeah.
Marshall. Like
Oh
Marshall
my
was
gosh.
maybe
Yeah.
3 American kids or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, So I think they're kind of dominating. So it is pushing more kids
Yeah,
D3 anyway that probably wouldn't have been.
yeah.
So
And it's funny that you say that because I have connections over to Europe and friends and family, and started playing over there, and kids there are realizing, like, man, I can try to be a professional, but like you said, right, like, man, you just realize the guy ahead of you is that much better, and you're never going to get past him. And a lot of kids are realizing, man, but I can go live in the US, go to a school and light it up for the next 4 years and get a degree at the same time. And so a lot of kids are just sort of saying, like, forget the professional, I'm just going to go over and play college. And that's
yeah,
where you see the Marshalls of the world, right? Like,
and
which
then they can still go pro out of that. Some of those kids like
correct, there's nothing that stops them at that. They just matured at a different rate or pace, right? And they go back to do their thing.
yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I think that's very, and then I just think the financial reasons for it too, for schools to be like, yeah, take the foreign kids because they pay for the most part, they pay full boat for wherever they go. But
yeah, yeah. It's
um
definitely an interesting trend. It's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
gonna change a lot, especially. I mean, just in terms of the spring. I mean, I'm sure some schools probably didn't enforce the 28 for the spring.
Mhm.
I don't know when they're enforcing it, but
Yeah.
I can only imagine when schools have to cut down that it's going to be the
Yeah.
portal's probably going to go crazy again.
Yeah. Well, just imagine too, right? Like, some of these guys already have committed at the time, committed spots going out to 26, right? To 20. So not this fall, but next fall, right? They've already got kids in the pipeline, and they're going to have to rain down hard on some of these guys. And I think, all right, we've gotten down such a rabbit hole, but
No, sorry.
I and I do think, like, there's a financial consequence that I don't think we're seeing yet, or that people are aware of, right? These smaller rosters, what's that going to do? There's what's going on in football and with the NIL and all that kind of stuff has yet to be settled. And I think what you could end up seeing is that even like programs like soccer, which I don't want to hear, but on the men's side in particular, are in jeopardy, right? There's certain schools that just might be, this is a program that costs us money. It's not worth us having. And I think we'll see some of that too, which is going to shake out even more players out dispersed into the different divisions. So,
I think it'll also be hard because you have two other things. You have like the idea that a lot of schools want to play in the spring too, so they want to do that whole fall and spring thing.
yeah,
Then
yeah.
you also have, like, I know when I was at Rutgers, New Brunswick, we had maybe 34 guys on the roster, but
Hmm.
if you graduate 10 seniors and then a couple kids get hurt or leave, like you're left with 13, 14 guys for a spring season. So
Yeah,
like even if you're not doing the fall spring thing, it stays how it is. Like
yeah,
tough to get through a spring and really develop your program if you have
yeah,
13, 14 guys after your
yeah,
seniors.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it will be
Y-
interesting.
Yeah. Oh, that is a great point. Like, well, this goes back to, like, I just have a fundamental question that I've been asking that no one seems to be able to answer, which I get because so I'm asking it, right? Like, you know, all of this stuff that we're doing at the collegiate level, and I'll just say at the youth level, and like, what's the purpose of it all? Like, what is our end game for? Is it just to have the best 22 guys at the national team level? Like, right? Like, if that's your end objective, okay, then maybe there are things we should be doing differently, or considering maybe we shouldn't and I don't suggest this, but I'm just saying as an example, maybe Division 3 should basically come up with their own soccer rules because they're not part of that, because the likelihood that a D3 kid is going to end up on a national team
Yeah.
isn't necessary, right? You know what I mean? Like, and I just think we've lost sight of that because we're so focused in on being something that maybe we're not. So,
Yeah.
anyhow.
You know what's funny is at Rowan we have a 28 man roster cap. The school doesn't allow us to take more than that. So we've
Oh,
been all
really?
28. Yeah, so we've seen it's tough to recruit. Like the
Uh-huh.
recruiting process is so selective because
Yeah.
you can't really miss on a
Yeah.
guy. But at the same
Yeah.
time, you can't take too many because you don't want to cut guys
Yeah.
preseason. So
That's
just that
interesting.
alone is going to
Yeah.
be interesting with the D1s also.
Well, right? Like let's
But there's a lot of
like
D1 and D2s that you can't do 28-man rosters because they rely pretty heavily on 30 to 40 guys coming in for
correct,
the
correct.
portal.
And they actually are able to, well, you have much less room for error. So your tolerance for risk is probably a lot lower, right? Like so
Yeah.
I don't, again, I just go look at the bubble player. Like you're like, could he? Yeah, maybe 2 years. But right now, no. Like, do we want it to? No. Let's save it for a kid who we think is going to, from day one, to one degree or another, be able to contribute at a level that we need. Right.
Which is hard because we've had D1 transfers come in and they can't see the field. So you get a
Yeah.
kid from the portal where you're like, I sit in the bench at a pretty good school, but then he comes in and can't,
Can't
you know,
do it.
he can't
Yeah.
contribute.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting.
it's a
I
tough
want
one.
to see that stat. You know what? Like, that's as weird as that is. I would love to see the number of Division One. I'm just generally speaking, the number of Division One kids who decided to go Division Three, like went Division One, transferred out, went to Division Three, and what their success rate looks like. Success rate in terms of minutes played, or however you want, or games played, or whatever.
Yeah, it
I
would
would
be
be
interesting.
really interested. That would be interesting to see, right? Like, because again, that just goes back to, hey, if he makes the roster at a good Division One school but can't get a minute at Rowan, what's that say about Rowan and Division Three soccer, right? In general. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that
um,
would be an interesting stat to see. I know
yeah,
that we could track it within our program, but
yeah, yeah.
might look
No, don't
into it.
let out the secret sauce. That's fine. Uh,
There's no secret, just get talent.
yeah. Hey, I'm curious. Could you? Why don't we just leave it? Getting back to Rowan, like,
Yeah.
how are you guys talking about how the season went for you?
Um, it's it's tough. I mean, overall, I guess it was a good season, but our staff. I mean, I went to the national final, lost. Our head coach won one. One of
Mm-hmm.
our assistant coaches, he won a national championship at Keene. Our goalie coach lost the national final at JUCO. Um, so we're kind of like we're not satisfied with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So from our
Yeah.
our point of view, like we have to improve. So it's
Mm-hmm.
disappointing in that sense, but at the same time, I mean, we played. I think out of our 10 out of conference games, 9 were in the 2023 NCAA tournament,
Mm-hmm.
and that doesn't include Montclair, who's in conference.
Yeah.
So we had a hard schedule, and then we played Mary Washington, who was number 1. We played Cortland, who was ranked number 2. We played Messiah, who was 3 at one point. We played Hopkins, who was number 8 towards the end. We played. I'm trying to think who else. Oh, Franklin and Marshall,
Franklin and Marshall,
and then Christopher
Christopher
Newport. So
Newport.
they were,
Yeah.
and Montclair State. They
Yeah.
were all the ranked teams that we played, and
Yeah.
in all those games we had a lead, and we lost the lead, except
Yeah.
for CNU, who beat us 1-0.
Yeah.
So it's one of those like we had a streak in the beginning of the year where we were just losing games on like a late mistake or a late
Yeah.
free kick or a late set
Yeah.
piece. So it was disappointing in that sense because let's say Franklin and Marshall, we have a 2-goal lead and we blew it. Or like SUNY Cortland scored with 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
Uh, like you pull out one of those games and maybe we're not traveling to Vermont for an NCAA tournament game and we're hosting one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So from
Yeah.
from our side, it comes down to like little things. So overall, we're happy. I mean, we won the conference,
Yeah.
which is always fun, and then made the NCAA tournament, which is a goal, but we didn't we didn't get where we wanted to. We thought we could make a deep run, and then Vassar was good. I mean, they were talented. They were the better team that day.
Yeah.
We just couldn't. We weren't hitting the guys that usually hit, bombs. They were kind of not connecting. We had some shots that were getting blocked, not going in. And then Vassar was good. I mean, they defended well, they attacked well. They had a forward up
Mm.
top that
Really
had a
good.
Yeah, he was awesome. So they were
Yeah.
like a really good, disciplined team. So
Yeah.
we faced a tough opponent first round, and you know. So overall, I'd say it's a good season when you're winning, but at the
Yeah.
same time, we definitely think we had more to give. So, but
The the yeah, Vassar. Well, it's Vassar's a whole other story, right? Like just amazing, sort of where they were a few years ago to where they've come. I thought they looked really, really good this year. I didn't.
they were great.
Yeah,
Yeah, they were very organized in the attack and
yeah,
it was
yeah.
a really tough team to play against.
And that kid up top, Jared Fisk, absolutely. If that's the one you're talking about, the All American, it just a fantastic, fantastic ball player.
Yeah,
I
there
mean,
was
it just,
the
I,
rumor going around was that he was recruited to Amherst, but they turned him down, and he went to Vassar.
uh-huh.
That was the rumor that we heard from our guys, but he's uh he's awesome.
You
He's
heard
and
it
he's
here first.
yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, that kid. I mean, he was great. He was a workhorse. They just knew they were just ready. You know what I mean? They
Yeah,
were more engaged. I
yeah.
mean, we had like a couple guys wake up with sinus infections,
Yeah.
like weird stuff. But it's the NCAA tournament. It's like
Yeah,
you got to hit stride at the right time, and
yeah,
you know, we uh we blew like a 10-game win streak, which also doesn't help. You kind of get that
yeah,
false confidence of like
yeah, yeah,
we're gonna
yeah,
just roll through everyone. But
yeah,
um, I mean, Vassar was good. They were way better than us that day.
yeah.
So
I
good.
I liked you guys throughout the season and the games you played, and but there were times where I was like, and it was those games where you gave up again, like Cortland and FNM, where it's like, man, you have it all. You know what I mean? Like you had it all going for you, and you couldn't seal the deal. And I just kept seeing that, and I was like, I started stepping away a little bit because I thought at the beginning, I'm like, huh, this Rowan team is for real.
Yeah. You know what? It takes I think what we had to deal with this year was like we knew we were talented, so when we look at our 2023 squad, like most teams couldn't take the ball from us. So we were like, all right, we're gonna win every game, and then you get countered. But then
Yeah,
it's that false sense of like, oh, we're playing a beautiful style. If we lose on a counter, it's okay. And it's like, no, it's not okay to lose. Like
yeah,
you got to win. You can't get countered. It's like Man City right now. It's like they're still playing beautiful soccer, but they're
yeah,
losing. They're getting countered. They're letting up goals. So we had to fight with that, especially on late set pieces.
yeah,
Because we lost to, I say lost, we tied, but to us, a tie is kind of a loss. But Newark and Rutgers Camden, our first two games of conference, like
yeah,
we're up. Newark scores 2 free kicks, and
yeah,
Camden scores a late free kick. So
yeah,
it was getting the guys more into like what New Jersey's all about, which is like,
yeah,
yeah, when it comes to like the 18s, like you better run through that ball, like
yeah,
run through the guy that's trying to get it and run through the ball. And
yeah,
once we sorted that out, we were close to unstoppable. But before that, it was that was kind of our battle. Was just
yeah.
those little moments. So
I think those were the ones too where that's when I was like, wait, what? Like I did. I mean this respectfully, right? I think you guys are in a class of yourselves along with Montclair right now in the NJAC. And so I expect you and I say this a lot and I can't enunciate it well. You, you guys have to act that way. You have to play that way, and you have to the the tough games. You still have to win.
yeah,
Like that's my expectation to you. So like Rutgers Newark, I expect you to win that game.
yeah,
And yeah, 3-3, you scored the goals, but you let in three, and I'm like, that cannot.
yeah.
Like,
They did you see those goals at all?
I did not. You know what? I saw a little bit of it, and I saw a little bit of it, and then I tuned out for some. I can't remember
They had a
why, but
kid, he hit it was the only game this year that it rained, but he hit these 2 free kicks that were
uh
like
huh,
they were bar down, both of them. They were like
yeah,
impossible. But yeah, no, you have to close those games out, and that's
yeah,
going into those games, like we knew that we were the underdog. It was actually funny. So you'll find this great, but the Franklin and Marshall game, we had a kid on our team whose dad texted him a clip from your podcast where I think you guys had Franklin and Marshall at like 80% chance to win.
Yeah, yeah,
Sent it to us.
yeah.
We started laughing, so we clipped a portion of it. We sent it to the guys. We're like, no one believes in you. And then they go
Yeah,
out firing and they scored 2 goals. And that was the same weekend we beat Hopkins three.
yeah,
We beat Hopkins 3-0. I would say if you did possession stats, they had the ball 80% of the game. We had it
yeah.
20%. And we played all 28
I
guys.
watched that game.
Yep, we played all
Yeah.
28 guys on our roster.
Uh,
We had a freshman who the kid's awesome. We just had talent, so he played sparingly this year, but
mhm,
he went on up top, and every time he was up top with Johnny Troiano underneath, one of the two scored.
mhm,
But by the end of it, we're like we told the way that we kind of play is like we like to have the ball, but we tell them like if there's a team that's just got it that day and you can't get the
mhm,
ball from them, like
mhm.
okay, we can sit in and we can counter. Like we've
Yeah,
gone over how to sit in and counter, and we've gone over how to run the offense and take control of the game. So our guys
yeah,
know like let's not be stupid. Like whatever the game's
yeah.
dictating that day, like that's the style we're playing. Um, and that was one of those. And it was like 95 degrees on the heat. They missed the
Mhm.
2 early chances and we capitalized ours. It was like, but yeah, it was funny. They sent the clip from the podcast of us not having a great chance to win, and we thought it was funny. So
That's awesome. Um, First of all, I am flattered, and I'm sure I could speak for EJ. Um, Flattered that we became electronic bulletin board material for you guys. Motivational. Um, I actually watched the Hopkins game, and what's interesting about that one is I was like, "There's no way," and the way the game was going, I was like, "There is no way Rowan is going to pull this off." And I
yeah,
looked back to the Franklin and Marshall game, and I'm like, "Yep, no, they don't have that it." And then in that game, Hopkins, you showed that you did. You know what I mean? And then, and so now it ends up being like, how can you not capitalize? How can you not tap into that every game, right? Because you could effectively been 17-5, assuming you still lost the games you lost, right? Like if you had that, you're 17-5,
yeah,
which let's just you're 17-4 going into the NCAA, which
yeah,
maybe like you said, maybe it just changes the draw where you end up, who's host, all that kind of stuff, which then gives you a better glide path. Which I think, if you're going to Middlebury in November or end of October, November to play Vassar, that's a that's a
tough
tough
matchup.
draw. Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
even tough. Like Vassar did great against Middlebury, and
yeah,
Middlebury, we were watching that game, and they played a team with a losing record,
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
and it was like they took their starters out by halftime, I think,
yeah,
um, and just rolled all over them. But that's part of like the beauty of the NCAA tournament. It comes
yeah,
down to like these little things that have to go right,
yeah,
um, and go your way, and things like that,
yeah,
which is cool. That's like the fun of it. But yeah, it
yeah.
was also. I mean, it was interesting. Like the beginning of the year. I mean, against Franklin and Marshall and Johns Hopkins, we have a player. He's our number 10, but the kid Davi Caputo, he
Mm-hmm.
was out for those games, and he started every game since
Mm-hmm.
freshman year. He's like a 90-minute guy. He was
Mm-hmm.
out, and then against Hopkins, we had a kid that got a late red card against Franklin and Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually the free kick that they played up to cross in to score the game tire.
Mm-hmm.
We got a red card for we lost the ball in their corner, and then
Mm-hmm.
they beat our guy 1-on-1, so he just clipped him, like just a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
clip of the heels, jogging back, tactical foul.
yeah.
The ref pulled a straight red out on it.
Oof.
Uh, so we were missing two starting center mids against
Mm-hmm.
Hopkins, and still was able to pull it out. But we had a kid Ryan Cleary. He was our right winger. He's like 6'2". He
Mm-hmm.
was our center back the past 2 years, and we were like, we saw Amer Lukovic from Montclair, 6'2", athletic, can dribble. We're like, all right, let's try to find one of those, and we put him up top. He had like 9 goals, so
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was cool. But I think we shocked people with having some of those guys that weren't in the attack last year that we moved into the
Moved
attack, and
into yeah.
they were electric. So it was pretty.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the kid I really like is what Johnny Triano. He's one of my best 38 ball players in the country.
Yeah, he scored
I
2 goals against
I thought
Mary.
he was I thought he was different level, like for in generally speaking of all the guys that I've seen.
He
So
just, I mean, if that kid hits a shot, like
yeah,
it's scary. Like it usually
yeah,
goes in. But he puts the work in. I mean, he shoots 100 shots a day. He's training like 2, 3 times a day. Like
uh-huh.
he's another level with how he trains.
Yeah,
He's a beast. So I mean, his 2 goals against Mary Washington were just next level.
next level. Yeah.
They
Well,
were awesome.
he is like it shows. I'll just say it shows, like, because I do think he's a difference maker and would be a difference maker on any team. Like he would be that guy, like who could
Yeah,
just show
you
up.
can't let him shoot. Like he
Yeah,
scores
yeah,
goals that are just. He
yeah,
scored his freshman year. He scored a volley against Middlebury.
yeah,
I think it was the game winner in the NCAA
mm-hmm.
tournament, and it was like
Yeah,
he just connected on this volley, and it was unbelievable. So
mm-hmm.
yeah, he's got a shot in terms of talent. He's like just as good as any of our top 14 or so, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
in terms of changing the scoreboard, which
Mm-mm.
is what you
Yeah,
want,
yeah. It's kind
without a
of
doubt.
has that lethality of him in front. You give him 30 yards to the goal in any spot. 30 yards in is like he's capable of putting it away that most other guys wouldn't be able to, or hit on a on a lower percentage basis. And I think he just has that nose for the goal, which is again, it's
Yeah,
great.
he's
I
got
love
that.
seeing it.
If you would break down his film and pause it right before a shot
Mm-hmm.
and say, "What should he do here?" 90%
Yeah,
of the time, you're like, "He should pass it,"
yeah,
and then he finds a way to get a
yeah,
shot
yeah, yeah,
in.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, he's doing real good. He's having a great career.
Yeah. Hey, can you just talk a little bit, and we've sort of danced around this quite a bit, just around the NJAC and what it's like to play in the NJAC. Try to tell people it's kind of like it's like the Sopranos version of conference soccer in the U.S., and that it's kind of unique and it's a little bit more of a brawl than I think most people give it credit for.
Yeah, it's so hard to play in the conference. Like even when there's teams that aren't ranked high or don't have a good record or maybe aren't doing the best out of conference, like it's really tough because every team knows each other and they know the coaches. Like I know the Newark coach and our coach played against each other. Um, our assistant coach played with the Newark coach. I played for the Camden coach. The Jersey City coach played against me at Montclair. Everyone
Mm-hmm.
just knows each other, and they know
Mm-hmm.
their style, so they know how to beat each other. So like you could be the greatest team, and teams will play you in a way where they know what your weakness is, and they'll try to exploit it. So if you play Rutgers Camden, like we outshot them 23-1 last year, and we tied 1-1. Um, but like they know, they're like, look, we're gonna sit in, we're gonna try to counter, we're gonna get that goal. Like
Yeah.
they're not the coaches are smart. They're not stupid coaches. They're
No.
not like
Yeah. Yeah.
we play this style and this is what we're doing. Like you have like Rutgers Newark who they get a lot of, Eastern European, Portuguese, Spanish kids from that area. Like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
they're
Yeah.
talented kids. Like
Yeah.
technically they're great. They might lack something, like maybe they lack, I don't know, maybe a speed or something like that at some point, but like they have kids that can change a game if they're on.
Yeah.
Um, Same with like even Jersey City and TCNJ, like they both had minimal wins, but like Jersey City was one of our harder in conference games because
Mm-hmm.
you're playing on their grass field and they have a bunch of kids like they don't struggle technically. So it's not
Yeah.
like when we play out of conference games, if you play a bad team, you might have kids that are taking a bad touch and giving it away. Like Jersey City's not going to give it away. They just
Yeah.
might lack something else. Like I think
Yeah.
Guzman talked about lacking
Yeah.
discipline
Yeah. Yeah.
and those kind of things. So it's tough because every team comes out, they know how to beat you, and then everyone's from. I mean, most of the people. We're getting some more out of state and
Yeah.
international kids, but for the most part, the kids don't know each other. So now
Yeah.
you're growing up playing against kids. You know where they're from. Like you might look down on a team, and if you look down on them, they're looking up for you, and it's
Yeah.
becomes a battle. So it's
Yeah.
definitely a tough conference, and when I was playing, we had like 4 teams or so that would make the NCAA tournament every year. Now it's
Mhm.
kinda strayed away from that, but it's still I mean, it's still a tough conference to play in.
I I I in talking to Coach Guzman, just seems to me that they just needs he needs some time. You know, he needs some time to establish the what his team is going to all be about, get the guys bought in and all, and then it's just a matter of, I think he'll be consistently that, oh my gosh, we got to play NJCU, right? Like I think that's
Yeah,
going to be.
and they're always like that. You know what? The NJAC, like, it's tough. Like, you could go into a game, there could be 30 fouls. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And they're not it's not like 30 fouls, all the kids are doing is fouling each other. It's like it's smart plays. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, if we're a team that wants to get in a rhythm and the team starts fouling us, now all of a sudden it breaks up
Hmm.
the play and things get a little dicey. So
Yeah.
it's definitely it's tough because like looking from out of conference, you probably see the records and say this team should smack this team, but you don't know the history of it.
Yeah.
You don't know how all the kids know each other and things like that. Like
Yeah.
you get a school like the NESCAC, I'm sure a conference like that, like I'm sure most of those kids don't know each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So now it's a school rivalry, but it's
Yeah.
different when it's a school rivalry and all the kids know each other. Now it becomes like
Yeah.
a
It's
little
something more. Yeah. Yeah.
we played Stockton in the finals this year, and
Hmm.
their starting center mid from last season was our starting center mid this year. So now you have guys that live with a player that's starting. He wound up having 2 assists, which is great for us,
Yeah.
but you get that kind of thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
if you would lose that game, let's say we lost that game 1-0 because the other team's more pumped up to try to take it to him,
Yeah. Hmm.
like you don't see that.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
It's
I don't think they're getting the respect they deserve anymore, the NJAC, but you know,
Yeah,
gotta earn it
I would
too.
agree with that. And I don't know why that is. Like I said, and that's why I was super excited to talk to Coach Guzman. And then when I reached out and you sort of came back and said you'd love to do it, like I think there's a lot of really good soccer that gets played in the NJAC. To 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 your point, like familiarity can breed contempt, right? Like, so guys know each other. It's a tight, I mean, soccer is for as big as it is in New Jersey. It's a tight, the kids, it's a tight knit group, like of kids knowing who kids are. And then
Yeah,
by and large, they're all high school players too. So they play within during the high school season. And,
yeah, and you'll get. I think what happens is like the out of conference schedules.
mm-hmm,
Teams might drop games or they might tie some teams that probably they shouldn't, but they're also playing them the way that they want to play, not the way of like later in the season when it's like, yeah, let's just win games. I think earlier
mm-hmm,
in the season you want to win, but you want to try to establish a style so you play with it. So
mm-hmm,
you're not going out of conference and saying like, let's do whatever we can to win this game. You're probably saying
mm-hmm,
like, hey, this is how we're trying to play. Let's play it. Let's try to win.
mm-hmm.
Um, Not just like, hey, let's defend and try to beat this team down, get in their head,
Yeah.
hit them off the ball, foul them. But you know, it doesn't get the respect it deserves. But I think
Mm-hmm.
that's also because some teams out of conference. I mean, like a Jersey City, like they'll play a weaker out of conference schedule, but you have to. Like,
Yeah.
if you're not going to win the conference, you got to
Yeah.
play teams that you're going to beat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
try to roll with momentum and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
New NCAA algorithm kind of hurts that. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, it's definitely not getting their same respect. But at the same time, I think the overall we got to do a better job as a conference of gaining that respect too. So
Yeah. Well, and be honest with you, and I've said this before, right? Like, there's you, there's Montclair, which again, I just think sort of sat in a different space. And for the longest time, right, there was College in New Jersey that I think over the years has sort of had its struggles and is where it is now. And so, right, I just think people look at that and be like, "Oh, it can't be that good of a place." And I'm like, "Yeah, you gotta watch, you gotta watch."
yeah,
Um,
TCNJ they're hiring for a new coach.
yeah,
That's going to be a scary school in a few years. because they can get
It
NESCAC
can be.
down.
Yeah. That's what I kept. I mean, one of the things I said for the longest time, which I never understood, and this is terrible. I try not to, but that was one of the. I have a list in my head of schools that I think, just based on what I know about Division 3 schools, like should be better and
Yeah,
can be forces to be reckoned with, and they're one of them. And I don't know the circumstances and what's going on, and who knows, but they right, they're a high academic institution. The school is great facilities, has all of those things, and people aren't afraid. Kids aren't afraid to go to the college in New Jersey, right? Like they're
right.
not. You're not dealing with, and I mean this respectfully. Like NJCU attracts a different kind of player. Like not a lot of kids might not want to go into Jersey City for whatever reason for school, but college in New Jersey and Ewing, like it's just a beautiful place. Okay, I can go there, and
Yeah,
so
like a NESCAC, a Haverford, and
yeah,
hopefully, I mean, not hopefully for us, but hopefully for the sake of the country, like they
yeah,
keep some of those. You got all the prep schools in New Jersey that
yeah,
you look at any NESCAC school, like they got Jersey kids.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe they'll keep some of those,
Keep
and
some of them. Yeah, yeah. I totally agree. Totally agree.
they're hiring. The rumor is that they're going to get someone. They're getting some high level applicants, like some D1 assistants looking to
Uh
come
huh.
down. So it's a
Like I
nice.
said, everything's there, right? I mean, like kind of you guys, and I don't know how many who are watching are familiar. Like you guys are. I mean, Rowan is like I said, grown leaps and bounds, and so it's like you go there and you're like, wow, this is some place, right? Like
Yeah,
between the facilities and everything, all the academics and
yeah,
College, New Jersey is just like that, and to me, it becomes like, man, that's a good seat to occupy. Like if you're the head coach and you got some energy and you think you got a game plan, like you could really and who knows, they've shown they could win the national championship in the past. So
yeah.
right, that's not a far flung thought. Like man, if I do this right, we can get the national championship. That's not bad,
Yeah,
So
I think in 5 years they're gonna be
yeah,
a whole different team and different program. Because I
yeah,
mean, you
yeah,
look at like you said, I mean they won a national championship. Rowan won one. Camden
yeah.
got to the final four.
Four,
Sorry, final. Stockton won one.
yeah,
Kane won one.
yeah,
Montclair made the final four. I think's the furthest they've got.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's
And they're this close. I've said it. They're this close. Like it's that margin. They're off by the margin.
right.
And that yeah. So,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. It'll be interesting to see
yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. So
Hey, what was if someone was to say, hey, what game in this season was like your biggest, like if you were to say this is what we're trying to capture and this is the way we want to play, which game is that?
I think Mary Washington. That Mary
Mm-hmm.
Washington. I don't know if you didn't get a chance to watch that one,
No,
right?
yeah, I didn't see
That
that
was
one.
like I think we had 18 shots, they had 17, or we had
Mm-hmm.
18, they had 19. Um, both teams like had some tap in chances that they didn't get. Like I know the first 7 minutes we hit the post. It
Mm-hmm.
was offset pieces, but it hit the post, hit off someone's leg, and bounced out twice in like the first 7 to 10 minutes. They had like some early crosses they were putting in that like they had to have been a half an inch away from just tapping in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that game was awesome. It was like both teams high pressing the whole time. It was a night game. We were pinging out of their press and getting chances. They were pinging out of our press. Like I think that's the game because it's one of those games where both teams they weren't afraid to attack and to win.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of teams now it's like that whole all right, we're gonna sit in, we're gonna play good defense, we're gonna just stay in our shape, and it's like all right, that's fun and all, but like let's win. Let's have a 4-3 game, not a 1-0 game. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like let's at least personally, that's the style I like. It's like let's go at each other.
Yeah.
And so I think that would be the game. I mean, and they were extremely talented.
Yeah, they were really good.
And
They
they were
were
all
really
grad.
good.
They had a ton of grad students, grad
Yeah.
seniors. Um, yeah, they were really good. I would say that would be the game,
Mm-hmm.
despite blowing the lead with 20 minutes to go. I would say that doesn't do it. But I would say the game as a overall is probably the game to
Yeah.
that we
What
would watch.
Which one would you qualify as the worst game you guys played?
Um, I mean, it's got to be the Vassar game. I
Yeah,
think. I mean, it's just.
yeah,
But I'm gonna put that one to the side and just say things just didn't go well that game.
yeah,
Like we were saying, like Troiano was hitting some shots where usually he connects that were going off. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough.
yeah,
It's tough to say. I guess I'll have to go with the Vassar one.
yeah, yeah.
There were some other games where things didn't go our way, but we pulled it out, so I can't really use one of those. So
Mm.
I think the
What?
Vassar game, Vassar or Hopkins.
Yeah,
Hopkins was
yeah,
good, but it was just like we couldn't take the ball off him. We had some stuff that we learned that weekend that we had to sort out.
yeah,
But you win 3-1. I can't say that's our worst game.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, like I said, you don't have to play. Like that. You don't have to play well every game, right? Like you just have to win. And I
Yeah,
think that's my lesson to you for you guys is you close, right? And like again, I just look at teams and I just sort of say, okay, how close would they be to winning a national championship or winning their conference, whatever that next level is? And I think the next level is for you all is that it's okay not to play well, but you have to do what you did to Hopkins, and
yeah,
maybe not 3 goals, but two. You score two, and you've done nothing with the ball, but
yeah.
you scored two. Like that's a
And
that's a
that was the
sign of
hard.
a team.
That
Yeah.
was the hard part about the Vassar game. I mean, we had a player that he was a Philadelphia Union kid until 16, and he broke his femur, so that's how we
Mm-hmm.
got him. But
Mm-hmm.
he like went to play a ball that usually he can play,
Mm-hmm.
like a one time pass. It was like more of a flick, but
Mm-hmm.
he lost it, and they countered and scored. And it's like,
Scored. Yeah.
then you go down 1-0. You're not
Yeah.
hitting the shots. Like we had a ball
Yeah.
off the post to
Yeah.
someone for a tap in that they missed, and it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you got to figure out a way to make
Yeah.
something happen, or just
Yeah.
get lucky.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Well, it's too right. Like it's at that at some point mentally all of that stuff becomes self-fulfilling, right? You're just missing your chances. You're missing your chances, and you're like, oh my god, we keep missing our chances, and it sort of snowballs into a point where again you keep missing, and it just sort of grinds you down a little bit. I think that's
yeah. Well, but it's funny because our conference final against Stockton, we went down 1-0 on them. They had three
mm,
shots the whole game, but we were down
mm,
1-0 with 19 minutes left. And like
mm.
even at halftime, we're like, guys,
We
we
got
have no
this.
coaching points. You're
Yeah.
fine. It's gonna come. Just
Yeah.
keep going
Yeah.
after it, and it just didn't come.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
but we also had an Italian kid that scored the first goal against Stockton to start
Uh-huh.
that.
Uh-huh.
He was dealing with a hamstring issue, but he didn't play in the Vassar
Yeah.
game. He was out,
Right.
so that hurts too. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it was just funny because we're like halftime of Vassar. We're like, guys, same situation as Stockton. Like
Yeah.
everything's there. We're just missing that final
Yeah.
execution.
Yeah.
It just never came.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, what? Again, I didn't know that you guys were limited in the roster size, but so what does your recruiting look like for this spring? And then what are your like? Are you guys? I know you said you start late. Like, what's your class look like? What are you bringing in? Um,
yeah, so
yeah.
I mean, we have a few D1 transfers coming in for the spring,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have some real talented kids that are trying to decide between us and a couple D1s.
Uh-huh.
So we have them coming in, but the way we kind of run our spring, we treat it like a 3 month preseason to
Mm-hmm.
the summer. Then when the guys go away in the summer, it's more of maintenance phase, and then they can come into preseason. We could kind of hit the ground running. So our guys will lift 3 times a week
Mm-hmm.
with a strength coach on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We'll get them up
Mm-hmm.
at 6 a.m. and they do a time 5 mile run, and then
Wow.
we'll we'll have them back out at 12:30, and they'll just
Mm-hmm.
play. We don't do a
Yeah.
training session. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
it's their reward for getting through the run.
Right.
And then on the days we don't meet, so the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they'll play futsal at night together.
Mm-hmm.
And then with those extra practices that we have now that there's 24 allotted, we'll
Mm-hmm.
add some Sunday night inter squad scrimmages. But we usually take we have so many talented kids at the school. Like our club team's really good, so we'll
Mm-hmm.
take about 36 kids into the spring season,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll make our guys that are returning for next fall like battle it out with some new guys that are hungry to try to displace one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really cool way of going, but that's kind of how we're going with our class. So we do have some transfer portal. We're gonna get some
Mm-hmm.
incoming freshmen for next year, but
Yeah.
like I said, we're kind of just started that process not too long ago because
Mm-hmm.
just in our experience, our best players come real late. Like they
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
when they fall
Yeah.
through a crack, something doesn't work out, a
Yeah.
coach leaves at the school they were committed to,
Uh-huh.
or something like that. So it's stressful as a coach because you want to be wrapped up by now saying like we got our
Yeah.
team, but
Yeah.
the goals we want, we have to wait. So so
How many spots are you looking to fill?
we graduated, I think like 7 or 8 guys.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not too many. I mean, we need goalies, so we need to bring in like 2 goalies or so, 3 goalies. Um, your
Uh,
goalkeeping guy.
yeah, of course.
Oh,
Of
it's
course.
perfect.
I
Yeah,
gladly.
so you coached at Princeton, right?
What's that?
I saw you coach at Princeton.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I was at Princeton for 8 years or something. I was their goalkeeper coach, but did a lot of other things too. So.
I was getting recruited by Steve Totten out
Oh,
of high
Steve.
school.
Yeah, yeah,
I couldn't get in though. I didn't have the
yeah.
SAT scores to get
Yeah.
accepted.
It's a unique place. I'll just say, like, it's a unique. Like, I always, yeah, I knew these kids, and it's like, at one moment they're talking to you about their senior thesis about rocket propulsion or some crazy thing and all the research they're doing. And then the next moment they're being a complete, 17, 18-year-old kid, like you're just
Yeah,
like, man, would you just grow up? And you're like, oh, yeah, you're going to be ruling the world one day. It's a really unique place. But Tots is a great guy. Like,
yeah,
if
yeah.
anybody's,
That's
yeah.
an interesting place to coach. You get
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Great
some
guy. And
experience.
The whole coaching staff is fantastic now. I like
Yeah, it was
I
awesome.
I I I so I'd always told Jim that I was like, look, if you can get somebody better that can dedicate more time to you, I am not standing in that. Like, don't I am not gonna fight that. And he came to me one time when my kids were young, and so it's like a lot going on. And he's like, "Hey, yeah, I know we talked about this, but we have an opportunity to bring somebody on that would take your spot if you're okay with it." And I was like, at that point, I was like almost like offended. And he's like, "Yeah, um, um, oh my gosh!" And now it's the um, what's the he's like, yeah, Jesse Marsh. He's looking to come back because he went to Princeton. So I
Oh
like to say, like, Jesse Marsh's career started because I stepped away.
That's
So
hilarious. That's an area that's filled with. I mean, the North Jersey area is
yeah,
filled with talented goalkeepers between Tim
yeah,
Howell,
yeah,
Tony Miola,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
all those
yeah,
guys. Actually,
yeah.
The Rutgers Newark coach won a national
Yeah,
title.
Kevin East. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it was really
so
good.
yeah, it's
Really,
a
actually played with him for a little bit at the New Jersey Stallions. I think for
oh okay,
a
yeah.
season. Yeah, years
That's
and
where
years ago.
Lukovic played. I think club ball
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah,
Ron Clark.
yeah, yeah. So, um, all right. So I got to ask you as a last question for you. Like, what are your plans? I mean, are you on the path to becoming? And I'm not saying now, but like, Is this like your path? Like, you're going to be a head coach someday?
Yeah, yeah. All I do is soccer. So I'm a technical director for a club. I coach there. I own my own training company. I kind of do it
Uh,
all in
yeah.
soccer. It's a lot, but it's fun. So yeah, the goal is to be a head coach one day. My issue is I've had opportunities to be a head coach, but
Mm-hmm.
I love winning. So I want to
Yeah.
stay somewhere around winning. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I've been around winning programs. I make
Yeah.
national finals a lot with
Yeah.
other programs and teams I've
Excellent.
coached. So I want to stay at programs that win because I don't.
Yeah.
We have a thing, especially because I do a lot of the recruiting. We actually
Mm-hmm.
we got a recruiting director in now who's awesome, but
Mm-hmm.
in the recruiting, like we kind of say like we don't get out to everything because if you watch a poor level, you could talk yourself into some kids being really good. And
Yeah.
with the 28 roster cap, like that just doesn't help us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we go to
Yeah.
like the big events, we watch the best players. We only go after them, and then
Yeah.
miss out on 100, and we get that
Yeah.
the three that are
Yeah.
game changers.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You
but yeah,
can. That's a good point. And I could go in and talk myself into, oh, that player's not bad. And
yeah,
the level of soccer is just not there. And it's just because he's the standout of that game. You're thinking, oh, he might be able to work. And yeah. So,
and that's the hardest part with the roster cap for us is like
mm-hmm.
you see kids at like a EDP level, and you're like, oh my gosh, I think this kid could be great, but you can't take a chance on him. You have to go with like
Yeah.
the MLS next kids because it's
Yeah.
they're training against the kid going to Syracuse.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have to go that route. But yeah, no, the goal is a head coach one day, but I'm not in a rush. I want to stay around winning programs and
Yeah.
go that
Do you,
route.
do you live down there? Do you live?
Yeah, I grew up in like Mantua, so it's about 10
Yeah.
minutes from Rowan. So
Oh wow.
I grew up
Yeah.
there. My whole family's been here, so
Okay.
yeah, I'm from the area, so got a good handle on it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will definitely be following. Now you give me more reason to watch Rowan. So,
Yeah.
and I have high expectations of you guys now. Much higher, much higher. And I have to
Yeah.
get down there one of these days. I definitely have to stop down. I don't know why I don't. Like it's in one of the schools. I'm like, I should go to a game. I should go to a game. I just never get there. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, we play some good. I mean, our whole thing is like play the best out of conference teams you can, so you know
Yeah,
which.
yeah, yeah,
You don't want to find that out in the NCAA tournament. So we play
yeah.
Cortland at home next year. We play
Mm-hmm.
Messiah away. So we have some good
Yeah.
some
That'll
good
be
matches.
good. Those
What
that
area?
Cortland game will be good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do
what
you?
area?
Yeah. What's that?
What area are you from?
I live just north of Princeton, so like it's Montgomery Township. So
Oh, cool.
um,
Well, if you ever
yeah,
come down, you
yeah,
come to the game or practice and
yeah.
where you're at.
Are you guys playing anybody in the spring?
Yeah, we're trying to schedule them now. We always try to schedule D1s, but
Yeah.
we we beat Delaware like 6-1 a couple
Uh
springs ago, so we haven't had too much success with getting a D1. But like they
Yeah.
are a little weaker in the spring, and
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
we have a different
Can,
roster. But
shoot
uh,
me once you settle on a team. Let me know. I'll see if I can get out this spring.
okay,
Or,
cool. Yeah, we might
yeah.
play like Camden County,
Mm-hmm.
because they have some good foreign guys. We might
Yeah.
play that Goldie Beacom, Eastern.
Uh-huh.
We played Jefferson University last spring,
Yeah.
so we'll see. But yeah, I'll definitely shoot you a
All
text.
right.
It'll be in the end of April, so
Okay.
cool.
All right,
All right, man.
brother. This
Well,
is
thanks
good.
for talking.
Thank you very much. Do appreciate. Hopefully, all the best to you guys. And if you guys need anything, you know who to call. So, all right. Thank you
Awesome.
very much.
Thank you. Have a good one.